Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back to Artichoke Dip. Knowing I've been kind of inactive lately, and a lot of that's been up here in the northern areas. We're getting close to the end of summer, and particularly the business I'm in with off-road equipment. It's crunch time right now, so we've been extremely busy at work, and with the heat and humidity, I've been coming home and just crashing every day. So I wanted to do a video, and what I wanted to talk about, before I get started there, for you new subscribers, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Welcome and thank you. And I can't say more than enough from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. So, what I want to talk about are some of my favorite game systems here. I haven't done a video like this in a while, and just talk about different game systems, why I like them, and particularly for solo play. And I'm going to start with board games first. And the first board game I want to talk about is this one right here, Shadowscape. Shadowscape is a great dungeon crawl solo game, and it has a lot of replayability to it. Now, I picked this up for about 20 bucks. And I played it a lot, and it's a very unique game. Every time the dungeon's different because you set the dungeon up, you are given a series of cards, and as you set those out, each card has this symbol on them, and you create a dungeon, and then you choose your characters. And just like any fantasy role-playing game out there, all the different classes are represented, from your thief, your paladin, your bard, your magic users, so on and so forth. And then you run them through there, and you make your decisions to search, attack, so on and so forth. And then when it comes to the encounters or the monster's turn and they activate, the game system actually controls the monsters. So each monster has a series of symbols on it, and it moves through the dungeon that correlate to that. So it's a very, very cool system. You can play solo, has a lot of replayability to it, comes in a nice little package. You know, you figure it's not something that's gonna be, how do I put this, require a whole lot of room to play or store. It's also great if you're going out of town and you want to take something with you to do some gaming, maybe to keep you occupied. This would be a good one to do that with. You know, I would rate this, as far as overall art and just replayability of the game, out of a scale 1 to 10, I'd give this an 8. I really would. It's an excellent, excellent system. And with me, I really appreciate the art side of stuff. Like I'm sure many gamers do. You get a game book and you open it up and you sit back and you really enjoy the art. Look at the art, and the reason why I guess it's so important is we look at that art and that portray of what those characters are going through, and it helps spark our imagination and helps really draw us into the game system and want to experience that. And this game system has really done that. And so if you're looking for a good solo RPG dungeon crawl at a very reasonable price, and you're on limited room, I'd suggest this one, Shadowscape. So the next board game I'm going to talk about, and I played it a lot, I mean a lot, and I have also purchased even more in the series because I enjoyed this one so much, and I've talked about it quite a bit. Now this one is considerably larger. It's going to cost you more. You will need something the size of a kitchen table to be able to set this up and play it, and you're going to have a little bit of room to store it as well, because it is kind of bulky. And this is the Dungeons & Dragons Temple of Elemental Evil. Now, this too is a great dungeon crawl. Now, unlike the first one I talked about, Shadowscape, where you get a pretty substantial choice of characters to choose from, this one you don't. You are given a couple of adventures to choose from, to use into the game system. And but the good thing is you can purchase other sets and use those characters in there and intermingle them. But with the game system, you know, like I said, the way I look at stuff is the art, the replayability of it. This one is up there, and you get these great tiles with it that all interlink together like so. And of course you get a village, but the majority of it is dungeon. And of course you get some really cool miniatures that come with this sucker. Of course these I painted. I did paint this set. I intend to paint all of the sets that I have eventually. It's when I get the time to do so, which I'm sure, like many of you out there, if you're like me and you know, work, family, and then of course your hobbies and trying to balance all that time. And of course, the cool thing about this system is you can buy this and play this board game by itself, solo, and have a great time with it. And then all the tiles can be also doubled to use as your solo RPG for dungeon crawls, and of course the miniatures you get with it. And you get a lot of miniatures. You really do. I know I don't want to harp on this system too much because I have talked about this a lot. I mean, you get some really cool pieces. The Etten is very cool. And of course you have a water elemental there. And I'm just gonna pull out a few here and miniatures and show you what I'm talking about. So very cool system. On a scale 1 to 10 for replayability, I would give this a 10. And the reason why I say that is I have played this with my nephews to where we have played multiple scenarios over and over. And I played this solo by myself, and I have to tell you, it's an awesome game system. It was really well thought out, well planned. Everything they give you is top notch as far as gaming goes, for, in my opinion. I know some people may disagree with me on that, but in my opinion, everything is really top notch. And it's a set that you really can't go wrong on. And so, as I said, I give this a 10 out of a 10 for art, replayability. All of the stuff that you get here is just absolutely excellent. And there we go. Now, third one I'm going to talk about, and this is one I recently had purchased, and I found a good price on it. Is the reason why I purchased it. I've wanted it a while, and I guess I should say this. When it comes to me purchasing games, I really do look at the price of them, because sometimes games can get absolutely ridiculous in cost, and the goal is not to break the bank. The goal is to find stuff at a decent deal and get more bang for your buck, is really what it is. So a couple cities over from where I'm at, they had recently opened up a new game store, and they were offering deep discounts on everything they had there. So one of the games that they had here, which will be number 3 board game I'm going to talk about, and that is Zombicide. And I had picked this one up. Zombicide is a very unique game. As a matter of fact, I've never played a game like this that is fun, because it is a cooperative game, and it can also be played solo. And believe it or not, when you play it solo, you have to be a little bit more resourceful and tactful because it's easy to get overrun quickly. Um, but the unique thing is, it's a cooperative game, so you can either play it solo or you and a couple of friends can sit down and play this, and you can all sit down and look, strategize, and talk about how you want to get through the scenario. And then, of course, after all the players have taken their turn, at that point, what they refer to as the game AI, the zombies move and respawn, which is kind of unique. They give you these sound tokens, and there's only a couple of weapons that do not make noise. The rest of them do. So every time they're used, sound tokens are put down by the character that used those particular weapons, and them zombies are drawn to it. And which, another unique thing I really like about it is the more zombies that you kill, the higher up your experience goes. And the higher your experience goes, the more abundant and the more vicious, I should say, types of zombies that they have in this game at that point come into play, which only adds more to the game. And if you are thinking about purchasing this game, one thing I will tell you that I found out and I did purchase is that they do make this. It's called a bag o' zombies, 100 zombies, about 12 bucks. Highly recommend you pick one up because you will need it, especially if you're playing with 3 to 4 people. You will need this because you're going to go through everything, all the zombies that they give you in this set. Now, the miniatures are very cool. The game system is actually a very simple system to use. And as you can see here, they give you some pretty decent miniatures. I mean, I have to admit, I was pretty surprised when I opened it up because I expected some smaller, cheaper miniatures, but actually these guys aren't too bad. Now, of course, there is the whole entire debacle of painting all of them. Will I paint them eventually? I'm just going to put that on my to-do list of stuff to do that maybe when I'm 80 years old I'll get around to. So, anyways, but it's an excellent game. I really enjoy it. Just like the Dungeons and Dragons game, this is going to be a game you're going to need like a kitchen table to be able to set this up. And I'm going to show you why here in a second. It uses 6 individual game tiles, and they're pretty large, and they're printed both sides to give you a different scenario. And when you look at the scenario map, it'll show you how to set everything up. But when you do assemble this and put it together, it is quite large. And so this game system is a must to have room. It's quite a large box as I'm going to say game systems go. So, you know, you're going to have some room to store it. For the overall design of the game and game mechanics and the art and everything, I would give this a 9 out of 10. The actual game map is very cool, very detailed. The miniatures are good. I really like the miniatures. But to a certain extent, the characters' depictions, when you look at them, are kind of cartoony. And I can understand for the game system why they did that. But I guess just for me, I'm really not a big fan of the cartoony type of depiction of the characters. So, but, you know, I don't let that bother me. I enjoy the game. I love the game. And if you really enjoy looking for tactful solo game, including zombies, which I know zombies are huge right now. You know, there's over the years there's been this reemergence of the old classics. You know, we had the vampires, and then of course Frankenstein, um, zombies, and I'm sure the mummies, and then werewolves. You know, all the stuff that the old saying, "What was old will be new again," which is very true. And so, Zombicide. If you're looking for a tactful game, including zombies, and tactful, I mean you're looking to break away from medieval fantasy and looking for a little bit more survival for excellent solo play, this is the one for you, Zombicide. So, these are the three main board games I really enjoy to play solo, and I have a lot of fun with them. And so now I want to talk a little bit about RPGs and some of the systems that I use there. Now, some of them are new that people have suggested and I have picked up and really enjoyed and used them. So there's 10 of them I'm going to talk about. And I'm also going to talk about a couple of unique campaign fantasy settings as well. But let's jump right into this because I got a stack of books here I'm going to talk about, and maybe you guys will, you know, find something interesting for you. Okay, the first one, and this is really a pretty good game system. If you're limited on funds, space, and stuff like that, but you want to do some RPGing, or maybe you're new to RPGs and you don't know where to start. This is definitely one I would recommend for you to pick up. It's one book. It's relatively cheap. It only uses 2 6-sided dice. My 12-year-old daughter, she enjoys it. She's played it, and she even had fun with it. And it's called Fabled Lands. Now, Fabled Lands, it's a really well thought out book, really rules light. You just sit down and you read a short section, and then it's going to ask you a question of what you would want to do. And then you choose your answer, and you turn to that page and you progress on through the story. Now, this isn't open-ended like a true tabletop RPG. There's a story narrative, and you have to stick to the story narrative. But if you're looking for a game, perhaps you don't have the space or the time to be able to set up and actually run through an RPG system, and you're just looking for something that is real light and you can pull out every now and then, this is the one. When I got this, what I really enjoyed to do when I came home from work and is just sit out on the deck and play this in the evenings after dinner, and I really enjoyed it. Now, the art is not too bad. You know, it's as you would expect to see out of a book like this, but it is very decent. I'll show you some of the things I'm talking about there. It's pretty cool. Now, I'm gonna rate this on a 1 to 10. I'm gonna say a 6. And you know, the only reason why I'm saying that is because I have played a lot of open-ended RPG systems before getting this. So for me, this leaves a lot to be desired. But for somebody starting out, this may be the way to go, and you may get a lot of enjoyment out of this. Now, the next one I want to talk about, game system that I really, really do enjoy, is, let me get down to it. Like I said, I got a lot of books here. It's this one right here. Palladium Fantasy. Now this is the second edition. I have the original first. I purchased this one, the second edition. Actually, it's very cool because the publishing, um, the main publisher is here in Westland, Michigan. And I had ordered this book. Something went wrong with an order, and I was able to go to Westland, Michigan, and actually meet Kevin Sembia, the man who writes all of this, comes up with this, and owns the whole company, Lock, Stock, and Barrel, and got a personal tour of geez, oh Pete's. I got a personal tour by him of all his works and everything like that, and got a chance to see inside the building and where all the artists do all the work, and it was really cool when it came to the BattleTech miniature end of it. You know, in the back part of the warehouse, they had the artists back there actually painting the miniatures and getting them ready to be shipped out to the customers. So that was, you know, really cool. So if you guys are into BattleTech, or if you ever look at BattleTech miniatures and you kind of look at the price and you're just like, wow, that's ridiculous. Why would I pay that? Well, one thing to consider is all of those are actually hand painted by people, and there's a lot to be said about that. Over mass production painting, these are all hand painted, so kind of makes it cool. Palladium Fantasy, very unique system, skill heavy. Unlike Dungeons and Dragons, this has a different battle metrics than what most fantasy role-playing games use. I really enjoy it. It gives you a very unique set of choices to choose from in battle, just because of the way that it's set up. Unlike most fantasy role-playing games, to where you roll and for the attack, and you're trying to I'm going to use the armor class as an example here, to meet or exceed the armor class rating number to do your damage. In Palladium Fantasy, you roll a 20-sided die. Anything over a 5 hits. Now, at that point, not only you as a character, but also the encounters are given the option. You can either let the damage take its toll, and at that point, hoping that the damage is low enough that the structural damage capacity absorbs it and doesn't affect the armor, or you have an option to parry or dodge the attack. If you do, you lose your next attack round, which adds more into the whole entire system. Palladium Fantasy, I've had a lot of fun with this. A lot of fun. It's a very cool system once you learn it and you get it down. The abilities and a lot of the character building template, I will say, is used across all of their products for most part. I'm not going to say all of them, but for most part. And the one thing I can say is it is an extremely skill-heavy driven system. So it won't be as basic as some of the older RPG systems that I have recommended. This one is a little bit, there's more to it. But once you create your character and you start playing, it's a very fun, very in-depth, very, very open-ended system. Now, on a scale 1 to 10, I give this a 10 for the art, for the game system, everything about it. And I'll just show you some of the art here. Very cool. And of course, don't let the thickness of the book scare you. Really, believe it or not, the thickness of the book has a lot more to do with skill sets than it does actually explaining how to play the game system itself. Now, as far as characters go, most RPG systems, you're given normally about 8 characters to use, and that's about it, unless you buy other supplements that'll give you more options. This one gives you an extremely wide array of character options that you can choose from and use. And so it has a very high amount of replayability to it, and there's a lot you can do with this. And that is Palladium Fantasy. The next one I want to talk about, which is very, very unique game. And for those of you that may like the Call of Cthulhu, Worlds of Darkness, I guess I'm going to say a horror genre role-playing system made by the same gentleman, Kevin Sembia. This one is called Beyond the Supernatural. Beyond the Supernatural is very, very reminiscent to the Call of Cthulhu. The whole game system is based on things that go bump in the night, and the people who have to go investigate that, and some of the things that they run into. Now, the cool thing about this game system, this is a horror-driven system. So everything that you encounter has the ability to drive you mad, just like you would see in the Call of Cthulhu. The very cool thing that I like about this system, very skills heavy, just like Palladium Fantasy, but the two systems are compatible with one another. So, if you, let's say, got to the point to where you're kind of burn out on the fantasy setting, and maybe you want to integrate a little bit of gothic horror into that, with this system right here in Palladium Fantasy, you'd be able to do that quite easily and meld the two and make a very unique adventure out of that. And can't say enough about this one. This one's really cool. And yeah, I really enjoy this one. I've had some pretty interesting game sessions with this one. Now, I will give you one word of warning about this game system right here. And they do put the warning in the beginning right here. So you may read it, and it's telling you this is a game. A lot of this stuff does cover a subject of, how do we put this? Very dark subject matters. Everything from voodoo to Satanism to cults, witchcraft, and give you an example there. Some other aspects of dark magics. And so for some people, they may not like that, and they may not want to really delve into that, I should say. But as he says in the beginning of the book, this is a game. This is all fantasy, all make-believe. It's all, built off of, it's not factual to the T. It's all for a game. But if you're the type of person, perhaps maybe you don't want that stuff around you or your family, maybe this one isn't for you. For me, I love horror movies. I love dark gothic horror and fantasy and everything. So for me, love this book. Love it. Okay. Next one I'm going to talk about, very unique game system. Does require the use of 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons player manual in order to use it. Have used it, played it a lot when I first got it. I haven't played it so much lately. let's just get the book out, talk about it. This is D20 Mecha. Now, D20 Mecha is a system that's high fantasy in giant mechanized robots. It doesn't even have to be giant mechanized robots. Implications of technology on humans and so on and so forth. Far into the future. Character creation is pretty straightforward. If you're used to playing 3rd edition D&D or 3.5 or even 5th edition at that point, then you'll pick up on this pretty quickly. One thing that I do bring up in here that a lot of people got confused on, and I had to read this over a few times in order for me to, when I first got it, to understand it. And they did not do a very good job of explaining it in here. So if this is one that you pick up, I'll help clarify that for you right now. In D&D, you see AC armor class, and we all understand what armor class means. Okay, it does not specify that, so you really have to look at this, but it talks about armor hardness. Armor hardness is going to be the same as AC. That's the number that you're going to have to meet or exceed to actually penetrate the armor on the mech. And then at that point, you'll have damage occur. Now, this one's pretty unique. But if you were to get any book, I would recommend, and I have used this one not only even for D20 Mecha, I've used it for other RPG systems. And it's a great wealth of information. And this one's called D20 Mecha Compendium. And this was a book that was designed to go with this to give the DM and the players more option for the D20 Mecha world. And of course it goes into different templates of mechs depending on the genre you're playing in. This one always struck my imagination and I always loved it. And it's built on the premise that in World War II there was a secret war going on, that the Nazis had harnessed higher technology and had the ability of mechanized combat beyond what we know from history, from like tanks and personnel carriers and jeeps. They went a step further, and America had to step up to the plate and design and come up with things to be able to combat the Nazis. And that's a really cool idea. So it bridges the gap for those people out there that like to play RPG and maybe they like to play historical stuff, and mixes a little bit of, you know, that futuristic battle mech into that. And then of course what they refer to as high fantasy. So for the sci-fi nuts that want to go high fantasy, outer space, outer realms, colonizing different planets, so on and so forth, that's represented there. And then for those of us who like the old medieval style fantasy setting, of course they have the old medieval steam powered mechs that are also magically enchanted. And there's some of the examples that they give you in there about different mechs, different timelines that it covers. But the very cool thing is too, is it also gives you ideas on settlements. Like any good campaign setting, give you an idea of where a story jump off point would be, where to start with your adventure. And you know, it gives you a lot of ideas, from colonizing other planets to the planet that we live on, you know, way in the future, that's been ravaged by war and fallout and everything else, and the inhabitants that have survived that and created new city states. And of course you're going to have an opposing side and factions, and so a lot goes into this. Really do enjoy this game system. For solo play, it could be used one of two ways. If you're playing with a group of people, this is also doubles as a good miniature system too, because you can have your battle mechs and your maps. And what I would recommend though for solo play would be based more on the campaign settings and stories that would take place inside the cities, and how the mechs would help you achieve that goal. So that's how I've done it, and I've really loved it. Now, one thing that I did do, and I talk about this a lot, is I like to take game systems and sometimes borrow certain aspects of them when I play solo, and add them to enhance other games. The one thing that I did use, I used a template of BattleTech, which is an old board game system that used the little cardboard pop-outs that you put on the maps to represent the mechs. And I used a lot of their tables out of there with this game system for battle mech wars and stuff like that, which worked out very, very, very well. BattleTech did a really good job at really narrowing it down when it came to missile barrages and different caliper weapon fires and cannon fires and everything else. And it only helped enhance this system. Now, as far as this system goes on a scale 1 to 10, as far as art, I'm going to give it a 10. Game system, I'm going to say a 6. And the reason why I say that is I think this could have been done a lot better than what it was. And it could have been written a little bit more clear for the player to understand, rather than being vague on a lot of the essential game mechanics that the gamer has to know. And I mean, eventually you do figure it out, but you have to go through this booklet a couple of times to figure it out. And I just did not like that. So, alright, moving on. So the next game system that I have played a lot, loved it, talked about it a lot. I mean, as you can see, Lord of the Rings. And that is this one, which is a 5th edition compatible Adventures in Middle-earth. I love this game system. I can't talk enough about this game system. I'm just going to get this out of the way right now. Out of a 10, I give it a solid 10. For art, for story, for everything. I have played MERPs, Middle-earth role-playing. I even bought the official licensed Lord of the Rings role-playing game from, I believe it's Decipher Studios. And I have yet to play anything that actually brings the true feel of Middle-earth to your game table like this one will. Very unique system, just like in the movies. How the story starts, the characters adventure out. Of course, they are... it's a good way to put this. They are weary over time with worry and the encounters and everything else. A good example, Lord of the Rings. After they lose Gandalf and they go into the forest and they meet Galadriel, and they're given a moment to recover and recuperate and healed and then sent back out. That's how this game system works, and very awesome system. If you love Lord of the Rings, Cubicle 9 came out with a game system called The One Ring, and it's one game system I would like to pick up. Unfortunately, it's extremely pricey, so that's the reason why I don't own it yet. And then Cubicle 7, I don't know where Cubicle 9 came from. Cubicle 7 got together with Wizards of the Coast, and they produced this, which is the same game system, but this is for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Now, I use different editions of Dungeons & Dragons, and as I said with Dungeons & Dragons, it's a templated game system, so Literally, it's the same Dungeons and Dragons as Dungeons and Dragons. You just have different editions of it. It's all the same. So as far as this game system goes, it can be easily adapted to any edition that you're playing. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Love this game system. And I have purchased even more books. I think I have all of them that they have put out for this so far. And I have a lot going on in gaming. I got one book I haven't even really got a chance to get into yet. And which I picked this one up for that, which is the Lore Master's Guide. And I'm probably going to have to look, because I imagine by now there's more books out there. Jeez, oh Pete, where did I put it? Oh. This one right here. Adventures in Middle Earth. Wilderland Adventures. So, love this game system. Absolutely love it. Solid game system. 10 out of 10 for you Lord of the Rings fans out there. Highly suggest it. Okay, got those out of the way. Let's talk about some more game systems that I enjoy to play solo. So, this one came out a while back through the open game licensing from Wizards of the Coast, and I had picked it up. I treasured it. I loved it. I play it a lot, and when I first got it, I couldn't put this book down, and I just played the heck out of it. And that is called Labyrinth Lord. Labyrinth Lord is what they call a retro clone game system, which is from the basic D&D. The art is very cool that it goes back to the retro 80s style. I love that. They really did a good job at capturing that art from that era. Even though this isn't from the 80s, they really did an excellent job at doing that. Everything about it is very well published book. On a scale 10 to 10, I give this a solid 10 for both replayability, excellent for solo, art is excellent. I mean, when you open up this book and you play it, it is just like them game systems from back then. Same thing, same feel, same grit in your teeth. It's awesome, awesome game system. Now, they have also came out with another add-on to this, which was the advanced edition of Labyrinth Lord, which would be the equivalent to Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, which also gives you more options as far as character classes, races, so on and so forth. Love that one too. As a matter of fact, I mean, I love both these books. I played the heck out of them. Both of them I give a solid 10-10. Next one I enjoy to play, this one right here, Castles and Crusades. Castles and Crusades, very interesting in the fact that they really captured the essence of 3rd edition D&D, and they mixed that with basic D&D, and they came out with this system. Very easy to play. Rules are easy to understand. The art in here is excellent. Everything about this is it's a good system, and I have really thoroughly enjoyed this system. Played it a lot, and art, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, and the overall game system, I'll give 10 out of 10. It's a very fun system, very easy for solo play, high replayability, and they make character creation simple, and they also make character progression up through levels extremely simple. And they do give you a lot. As your characters progress, they just get stronger and stronger and stronger. Excellent system. Love it. I really do love it. And a lot of times, truth be known, I will use this to play, haha, this. And it works out well together. Next one I want to talk about, this one right here. I'm just going to say 10 out of 10 as far as art, the way the system goes, everything. That's a 3rd edition Dungeons & Dragons. I don't think I have to say any more about that. For those of you into the hobby, you know what Dungeons & Dragons is. If you're new into role-playing and you're just getting into role-playing games, 3rd edition is I would suggest to go to. The reason why I'd suggest that is extremely simple to understand. The earlier editions, some people have a problem with subtraction. And the way I've explained this to a lot of people, basic, 1st, 2nd edition, the way that the math works in RPG systems is everything is subtraction. Everything from 3rd edition forward is addition. Simplest way I can put the way that the game systems work. Now, for a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with it, they struggle with subtraction. So it's easier with addition. But very, very open-ended, excellent system. There's still a lot of stuff out there in print for this. This is even compatible even now with 5th edition, 3.5 edition, Pathfinder. Excellent system. Really excellent system. Had a lot of fun with this. I have used this quite a bit. I mean, quite a bit, to where the spine's pretty well worn out. Now, this one, before I introduce it, 10 out of 10, right off the rip. Talked about it a lot. 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons, which will always be my favorite. I love 2nd edition Dungeons & Dragons. 2nd edition is not for everybody. A lot of people do not like the THAC0 system, and also the speed factor that's added to the weapons, which, if you ask me, that only enhances the battle matrix and the way that the system works. I love it. Some people hate it, so it's a love-hate relationship there. Me, 10 out of 10 for art, replayability, solo. Awesome system. I love it. My favorite system. As a matter of fact, the game that I'm playing right now with my Necromancer is 2nd edition. So let's get down to number one. Number one, the one that started it all. And I still go back to and I play every now and then. But the books are starting to fall apart, so I try to limit. And that's this right here. The original basic Dungeons & Dragons from the 80s, when I was a kid and I got this stuff. Now, of course, it goes without saying I give this a 10 out of 10. This is the one that started it all. A lot of people will look back on this and just scoff because, oh, that's old, that's old, that's old. Well, that's true. But this is the one that started it all. And I should say with me. I'm not going to say it started it all because we know that's not the truth. But for me and my solo RPG career over the years, this is the one for me. Excellent game system. Very simple. This is designed and still true to today. You can open this up within 10 minutes. You'll have a character and you'll be playing D&D. And it's so open-ended, and there's so much you can do with this that you are truly only limited by your imagination. So, I got my favorite game systems and board games out of the way. I want to talk about a couple of campaign settings that I like to play solo, and I enjoy to play solo. The first one, the Domains of Dread for the Ravenloft system. This is for 2nd edition. If you like gothic horror in a fantasy setting, this is the system for you. I give this a 10 out of a 10. Extremely dark system. Art's awesome. It really encapsulates Ravenloft for what it is, and not just Castle Ravenloft, but the entire realm of Ravenloft and all the nightmares that live within the realm of Ravenloft and beyond the veils of the mists. Love this system. Love it. Played it a lot. I picked this one up and I have played this sucker a lot. And I really enjoy it. Second one I want to talk about. The Forgotten Realms campaign setting for 3rd edition D&D. Give this 10 out of 10. Art's excellent. For 3rd edition, I give it a 10. This is a complete campaign setting. You pick this sucker up and you have your world right here to play in. You have everything you need to keep you busy for an extremely long time right here. And as far as solo RPGing goes, you're going to find a lot of trouble to get yourself into in these pages. Now, I got two here I want to talk about that are rather interesting. The first one I want to talk about is for 3rd edition, and this one is called Ghostwalk. Now, I give it 10 out of 10 for not only art, but also for the overall storyline. So after your characters die, they're dead, according to the world you're playing in, but this gives the idea that they go into the spirit realm, and from there they meet up a central hub point to where they continue their life as adventurers going through spirit world, looking for more riches and more adventures as a spirit. Very unique system. You know, if you have a pile of dead characters looking for something to do with them, this may be the book for you, and you might enjoy this. And of course, because you are now a spirit, you are entitled to a whole bunch of new skills, feats, and other goodies that the living are denied because you are spirit. And the last one I'm going to talk about in this video I'm going to cover is this one right here, the Libris Mortis. Okay, if you have a magic user, this is for 3rd edition, give this one a 10 out of a 10 for art and uniqueness. I'll show you some of the art in there. You have a magic user and you want to become a lich, and you want to be an eternal magic wielder. Libris Mortis will show you how to do that. This is all about creating and playing undead characters, with the emphasis on liches. Very unique game system, and it really does give you a unique perspective into the realm of undead and those systems. So if you're looking for something off the beaten path, maybe you're looking for something new, or perhaps you're sick of being the good guy, maybe you want to rule the evil side, maybe you want to rule the twilight shadows of the world, this would be the book for you, the Libris Mortis. Very cool book in here, and of course, just like with any 3rd edition, your access to new skills, feats, and everything else that obviously the living aren't access to because they're alive. You're not. Very, very cool book, very unique, and it's one of those, even if you don't use it for all the time for RPGing, it's just a really cool one to pick up and read. And like I said, it gives you a very, very, very cool perspective of a different side of gaming that perhaps maybe you would have never thought of doing before. So, Alright guys, I intend to do another video. I want to try to get that out here pretty soon. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. And I just kind of wanted to get that out there and talk about some of my favorite solo systems out there. What I enjoy about them, where I rate them. And maybe you guys will find them just as interesting as I do. But with that being said, thank you so much. Don't forget to give me, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And I look forward to seeing you guys the next time. Game on, my friends. And it's time to try to get some gaming done. It's been a long week, and it's Saturday, and I don't have anything to do today other than gaming. Thank God for that. Alright guys, as always, game on, my friends. Feel free to drop me a line and I'll answer your questions as quickly as I can to get back to them, and best of my ability. Alright my friends, talk to you later.